We are going to talk about one of the oldest finishes around. I didn't realize it till I looked into the history of milk paint, but it's an incredible non-toxic finish that has been around, and I've used it sparingly, to be honest, in my work over the years. But I'll get into that more in a second. I just want to thank you for being here, and remember, if you enjoy this content, please consider subscribing. It helps us so much. Head over to epicwoodworking.com and check out the courses there, and consider moving into the neighborhood. That's where the real value is too. So anyway, let's get to it. In my reading, I discovered that when I mentioned prehistoric, this is what was the formulation was very similar on the cave drawings or the paintings found in, I think it was France, some 13,000 years ago. So they know it was made of the same milk protein and mixed with some type of binder, which gave it permanence on the interior walls of these caves. So what is it? Well, it's, as I said, it's a natural finish. It's made of milk protein. Think powdered milk. Remember those days? Did you ever have to drink that when you were a kid? It was disgusting. Well, it's like powdered milk, which is basically the milk protein in powdered form, the casein, which is 80% of milk's protein. The other 20% is whey. How do you like that for your little? Wow. The casein is important in making cheese. So it's a cheesy finish when you come right down to it. But in order to stay locked on the surface, it has to have what all finishes need, is a type of binder that's almost like a glue that keeps it on the surface. And for that, they mix some lye with the milk protein. So you have that, the lye, and then you have natural pigments or colorants from the earth, usually some types of clay and all different colors of soil, ground up very fine to color it. So you had some of these really early rich paints. They've been used throughout history. They were used in Egypt for decorating tombs and all that. But you see, because it's water-based, it wasn't super protective outside. So it's more on items that are going to be protected from wet climate and whatnot. So furniture is ideal, indoor furniture. Now, you may be most aware of having seen this if you've looked at any of the shaker work. We've talked about the shakers a number of times here because we live so close to the Canterbury Shaker Village. But check this out. Here's two chests of drawers on this side that have dramatic coloring. You've got this yellow kind of ochre pigment and this red. And quite a lot of shaker furniture was painted with milk paint. And you wonder why. If you look in what this was made of, it was pine and basswood with fruitwood knobs. So maybe apple trees they were turning the knobs with. But then they would paint it because it was just pine. And the same goes here. This was also pine and basswood. So nothing fancy about the furniture. So that leads to, why would you even want to use it? Well, you could add color and splash to your work, especially if it was like an just kind of a so-so secondary wood like pine. Not that exciting, right? You may be wondering, why did I paint the base of this table that I started off with showing you? Well, this was the first item that I made in classes over at the Shaker Village over 25 years ago now. And I would go over there and the top was cherry, but the base parts were all poplar. Just kind of boring. And we'd make the joinery into the poplar, and I gave everybody a little bit of milk paint, and they would milk paint the base like this. So we had, the pegs were proud. You'd just brush on the milk paint, and you get this beautiful color. Isn't that nice how it complements the cherry so well? Green is like opposite the color wheel of this kind of red in the that you pick up here. It's golden reddish tones, warm tones you're getting in the cherry. Looks great against green. A lot of woodsy colors look great in green. In fact, that's the secret why we painted the walls with a greenish hue in the shop, to give it a warmer look when it came time to get that cleaned up. So there you have it. The milk paint went out of style for a while because, you know, it wasn't as durable outside. Oil-based paints came into play. Now we have acrylics. Everything's so much more durable for exterior use, but it's kind of gotten a little renaissance. You know, people making reproductions, a lot of restoration work, and it's a nice way to dress up a restoring piece where you might strip off the old finish and just accent elements of the piece with milk paint. I've seen some restorations, probably you have too, online, where people will strip down and just paint a chest of drawers or something. Well, milk paint is pretty durable and attaches to a lot of finishes, but I'm not going to go into all that. I just want to share with you using it on raw wood. I want to get into using it and applying it. So this is where it's like super safe. It's non-toxic, it's biodegradable, and it gives off no VOCs, like volatile organic compounds, you know, where you have to wear the big face mask like lacquers and all that mess. It's just a wonderful material to work with, but it does have lye in it, so you don't really want it on your skin very long, you know, but sort of like soap. So anyway, we put some links there for you to find various sources for milk paint. It comes in the powdered form, and believe it or not, these are the bags I had stored away, not in my attic, in my finishing room. And these are from the milk paint company, old-fashioned milk paint. So we put a link to them. They're still around. These bags are a little over 25 years old. These are what I used when I painted that table. So I was thinking, oh my gosh, is this stuff still any good? Well, what's really cool about milk paint too, in this powdered form, if you keep it sealed and in just doesn't even have to be in a super cool place, but this was in a cooler cabinet, it will keep indefinitely. Once you mix it with water, though, it's good for a couple days. Unless you stick it in the fridge, you'll get a couple weeks out of it. Now, there are other types of milk paint that have additives that will give them longer shelf life. General Finishes sells pre-mixed milk paint in the can. It's in a can like this, you know. This is glazing but it's General Finishes. And you just get the milk paint and you can brush it on. It's already at a good consistency for you. But the nice thing about milk paint is pretty inexpensive, relatively, and you just mix up what you need, because it's going to probably go bad unless you don't use it. And then you can keep it indefinitely. We could have this conversation in 25 years. No problem. All right.
Everybody's favorite.
But I want to show you how to mix and use it. Now, here's some samples of this milk paint that I have in these bags. So the one on the left these are all by this old-fashioned milk paint company. There is another big, very popular company called, I think it's the Milk Paint Company. It's pretty imaginative. They're Nashville-based, but they seem to be pretty strong and prominent these days, and looks like a great company. But you could find all these similar colors there as well. But if this is the old-fashioned milk paint, and this is the barn red. So this is their barn red color. This is the Lexington green. That's the one I've used the most of. In fact, that's what's on that table, except it's not just the Lexington green. This is how you can shape or push the color a little differently. So I didn't like how, I don't know, it wasn't deep enough, or it didn't feel, what is the word?
Rich?
Yeah, there was something kind of folksy about it like this, and I needed a little more refinement or classy. I don't know what to call it. But so I added some black. So the recipe for that table base is Lexington green mixed with some black. So 1 part black to 3 parts Lexington green, okay? This I'm showing you is the exact same. So I've got 1 part black to 3 parts of the barn red, okay? So we're gonna apply some, I'm gonna put some oil over this at the end so that you can see how it works. The thing about milk paint is when it goes on, it's water-based, so it kind of raises the grain a little. You'll lightly sand and then apply another coat. You can mix it up thinner or heavier. This was mixed up fairly heavy, and I only brushed on 1 coat. But it's very chalky feeling, and it dries, as you can see, quite flat. So it gives you a nice look, like an antique kind of warm, flat look. But I like to seal it because if you spill something on it, it kind of absorbs into it. You know, it's only water and it's chalky. It's right there on the surface.
Yeah.
So I think it's good to protect with the Danish oil or some type of tung oil varnish or something over the top, which I did on that table base. And that's going to push it a little darker. Some people use just wax. To me, that's not enough protection, but we'll try that too. Let's mix some up. I'll show you how that goes, and then we'll try some top coats on here. All right, so what I'm gonna mix up is a color that I haven't mixed yet here. I don't think I've tried it, and that is the Soldier Blue.
Ooh, that sounds beautiful.
Yeah, doesn't it sound good? And this is the same company. All this is, I got it at the same time back then. But here it is. Let's see. I must have used it because it is open. Okay. And there's the powder. So what I'm going to do is mix up one just plain Soldier Blue. I'm just going to use this well-used tablespoon as a measure and just get roughly a tablespoon of the powder. It doesn't have to be perfect because I'm going to mix the water too. All right, so a tablespoon of Soldier Blue.
I think, Tom, that
We'll do a
people who are having furniture made these days appreciate the historic value of the milk paint concept.
Do I think they appreciate it?
Yeah, it's like the history of milk paint.
I don't know. I didn't know much about it till I knew the Shakers used it. I was reading specifically about that, but I wanted to see how much it was used. And then I stumbled into that long history of it being used back in Egypt. That's 1 tablespoon. Now, for those tables, I would mix up 2 tablespoons of this powder. And I had written my recipe 25 years ago on one of these bags. Oh, here it is. And I said, mix half a tuna can of water, okay? So I would actually mix it up in the tuna can. So you take the tuna can, fill it up halfway with hot water, right? And then 2 tablespoons of the green, and then 2 teaspoons of the black. Now that would be a lot thinner than I'm mixing it now. I'm doing it almost 1-to-1, but it should be a little more 1-to-1 or 2 parts water to 1 part, depending on how thin you want it. It does thicken up as time goes on. All right, so let me get the black. I'm gonna put the black in one of these. Here we go, pitch black, it's called. And it's nice to have the black because you can get all these other colors by just adding a little black.
Mike's curious, Tom, if you pre-wet the wood before applying the milk, would that reduce the need to sand after milk paint?
Yeah, you could like raise the grain. We talk about that a lot in finishing furniture, but honestly, the number of coats you're going to put on, I heard from Windsor chair guys, it's multiple coats. So you're sanding it between coats and you end up knocking it down plenty because the first coats act as a raising the grain when you sand over them. All right, so I'm using a teaspoon. So all that's to say is it's not really necessary to raise the grain, but you certainly can because any water-based stain will raise that. But there we go. I've got my mix. Now I'm going to put some water in there. I just filled this up with some hot water, some really hot tap water. It doesn't have to be super hot, but let's just go tablespoon in there, and I'll go about a tablespoon and a half. The other one I'll go touch over a tablespoon because I don't have as much. And let's see how thick it feels. You can mix it up with a stirrer like this, or if you have a little whisk, you can whisk it up. And that'll help mix it faster because it is, look at how crumbly powdery it is. And you gotta let it kind of dissolve a bit in there. Wow, that's going blacker than the other ones. I haven't tried this yet with the black, so this is kind of an experiment in real time. It may not work like the others. It looks more black than the blue. Can't absorb the black, I think. Or maybe we want just a lesser ratio. This, I think I need a little more water in here. So there, we're just gonna stir it up. All right, so there we have it, the Soldier Blue. That's actually a pretty nice color. Why did I wreck it with the black over here? This looks like gray now, good grief. So that just turned it almost to gray, like a blue-gray. We'll see what it looks like in a second. So normally I'd let it sit a little bit. You'd let it sit for 10 minutes or so, then come back and stir it some more, maybe add a little more water. You can always add more water if it gets too thick. I know I let it sit for a couple hours. I came back and it had thickened up quite a bit. Add some more water, but right now it's not too thick. So I'm gonna just brush a little on here. Let's see what we get. Let's put on our Soldier Blue here, and then we'll put the black mix on the bottom, keeping with the others. So I'll just get a little Soldier Blue. It's great though for all kinds of little crafty projects, at home. It looks awesome, doesn't it? This would be nice with I could see this with like birch, or like that shaker rock we just did had that beautiful shaker tape seat with a blue like this. You like that, didn't you?
Very, very much.
Blue and kind of off-white. It's nice. So I'm just brushing this on. It's super easy to brush on. You can thin it down more and actually spray it, but you want to filter it and use a fairly cheap gun. It's stuff, I don't know if I would trust it spraying, but there. Now that's going to dry really flat. I'll hit it with the heat gun in a second because it gets a lot, it's going to get less rich in color than that. Let's just clean this off. Let's clean this off. That little...
Bob
That's for all
Ross.
you Bob Ross fans. All right, so now we're going to clean off our whisk, and let's go in for this blackened, or let's see what happened here. Did we totally ruin it, or do we have something? that black really takes over. I think you want to go maybe half a teaspoon would have been better, because I don't see much of the blue anymore, do you?
No.
It's crazy.
Let's see.
Killed the blue. And that was like, I'm just going 1 teaspoon of black to 1 tablespoon of the
Midnight
other.
blue.
Yeah, which gives you 1:3 ratio. Yeah, so there you go. You got black here. A blue black, but it looks more black, right?
Yeah.
So maybe when it dries, it'll have a little more of a bluish cast. Who knows? But let's hit it with the heat gun and see. So I'm going to put these covers on. I'm going to stick these in the fridge to keep them good for a week or two. And because I got a little project I got to finish. But let's get a little heat gun on here. See what happens.
It's like watching paint dry.
How many people said that? I said that in my head too. This is as exciting as watching paint dry. All right, I'm giving it a little too much heat. Now, you normally wouldn't want to push it that hard. It dries super fast on its own. It's just water-based. And if you put it on thin, you know, it basically evaporates and you're good to go. But you can see the color is lightening up there. I think that soldier blue, it's basically going to look like the powder when it dries. And it's quite a bit lighter than that. So it was a similar case over here. Let's put some of those top coats on here and see what it looks like. So first I'm going to wipe on some, this is from Sutherland Wells. This is a uralkyd. It's urethane and an alkyd varnish, basically. Similar, it's a floor type finish, but it's probably a lot like Armor Seal from General Finishes, because that's a urethane alkyd based recipe. And I'm just going to wipe this on and show you what happens. Let's do it on the red first. I'll just go up 1/3 of it here on the side. So see how much darker we get? And
wow.
This will dry and it'll be quite protective and just seal it in. Now, I would have lightly sanded it, but it would look the same regardless. So there's just a finish. Now, you could just use Danish oil and that would work well too. Let's put a little on the green. Go right in here. That's a nice Lexington green, huh?
So pretty.
But this is more almost like of a hunter green, I think, you know, like it's just a darker, richer, it's almost like a little more formal. I don't know, one of you color sensitive people should tell me what color green is that. All right, so now I want to try something that I've not tried yet, but I've heard it suggested. You can just use a polish or a paste wax. So let's see what happens with just a simple paste wax. Now this is obviously, when this dries off, it's not nearly as protective, but it will give you like an old world look. Now a lot of Windsor chairs obviously were covered with milk paint. You know, they would start out with red, like a couple coats of red at least, and then it was more traditional to then put another 3 or 4 coats of black on top of that. And so you could go pretty thin that way.
What are you using to apply that?
What am I? I'm just using a rag.
Oh, okay.
So this is just wax. I'm just gonna get it in there. I'm gonna wipe it off in a second. You do get some darkening, but not as much. It doesn't go as dark as the...
So Tim's suggesting
I'm taking a
hunter
little
green
off with
on
this.
the top and forest green on the bottom.
Okay, that sounds
That
good,
makes sense.
Tim. Hunter green,
Tom,
forest
you
green.
mentioned sanding the red and green, but did you say you did not sand it? Or you did?
I haven't sanded before I put on this finish,
Okay.
but I would have like between coats because, as we mentioned earlier, it does raise the grain. It's water-based. I did hand plane this sample first though, so the grain didn't come up a whole lot. I'm almost feeling more the grit of the powder because I mixed it kind of heavy. But after that, now let's wipe that back. I can see it drying there. The wax is kind of curing. I pulled a little color off that one. Look how this is drying and getting much bluer. Let's see if we can dry that a little more. We'll wait for the wax.
There you go.
This is almost looking like a slate black, isn't it? So then, well, I'm not a big fan of just the wax. It just doesn't feel protective enough. But you can see how it would permeate and give you that color pretty much throughout. It's pretty nice. I mean, it's antique-y. They would use it a lot on Windsor chairs, you know, to finish after putting the color on. You could do that. But I'm a big fan of this method here. Let me just wipe that back a little bit. Take some of the excess off. And you're seeing very close. Let's look over here. You can see this is actually what I had there. This is still wet. After this dries, it'll get a little toned up. But this one is a little, so this has a little more of the black in it, giving, I don't know, it just gives me a sense of a little more antiqued green and a touch more formal, where this is a little more folksy in my own eye. So there you have it. You can have fun with this type of finish. It's super easy to use. It's very durable. Once it goes on, it's tough to get off if you go straight on the wood. But it's a wonderful either folksy or slightly more formal finish. Now I got a couple projects I'm working on. This is what I brought to the fair, and I showed some people. I prepped the blanks like this, but these legs, all I did was made octagons to prep, and then I quickly turned this section. So I was spoke shaving these legs. I would spoke shave off the octagon quickly and then go down the whole thing. So it ended up having this faceted feeling, like right off the spoke shave, but the taper was already there. So I didn't have to spend a lot of time with the spoke shave. And I got them all like that. I had pre-sawn it so I could drive wedges in when I was done. The seat blank is very kind of Windsor-y, right? I dished out the seat using the Arbortech cutter and then a cut saw and then the Rotex sander. But look at the seat. So this is how chunky it was because I just ran it with a roundover bit and right here to get it roughed out, and the same here. And then I went more aggressively with a spoke shave and started to undercut it. So you can see the difference between nothing and then you can lighten it up. Like this side here is, maybe this is a little better right here. So it's undercut and it gave you a lighter looking seat than right there, you know. and made it a nicer job. But I got to thinking, this is a perfect candidate after it's all glued up and shaped and wedged and finished. It's going to be a great candidate for milk paint. So be thinking about what color you want.
Okay.
And we'll milk paint it up. Maybe we'll do that very Windsor-like finish. So it'll be right on the faceted surface too. So it'll have a very old kind of feeling. And the other project I got going is for a good friend who lost their dog recently. And if you want the other story about the dog as it relates to this box, you can go watch the other episodes. But this is a box that we made recently and carved this seashell design on the top. And this is on white pine. And this was more as a prototype to think about the design to make it into, you know, a primary wood like mahogany or some other wood. But why not pine? I mean, the Shakers would have used this, right? In fact, the Shakers would have put a milk paint on there, and that's exactly what we're going to do.
Lovely.
I'm going to put, they want to have green on the outside, so
It has a home now.
you know who you are.
Yeah.
Tell me if you like the Hunter or the wait, what did we
Forest.
decide? Hunter Forest?
Yes,
Is that what we said?
correct,
Yeah, if you like this or this, it's going to have the oil on it. So would you prefer this green or that? That's a little blacker green. I think this is better actually. On the inside, I thought I would put some red for the heart and soul of those loving dogs. This is going to be like a little cremation
nice,
urn.
yeah.
So maybe this barn red on the inside. But on the inside, I will not put the oil because it doesn't cure when it's sealed off like that. And every time you open it, well, you won't be opening it a lot, I hope, but you would get that smell of the oil uncured. So I'm going to shellac the inside and I will oil the outside
be
once I
beautiful.
get the milk paint on, and that'll cure. It'll be nicely done on the inside. All right, everyone. Well, that was a lot of fun. Kind of interesting to look at the colors, and we didn't even tap into how much variety there is out there with the yellows and whatever. Use your imagination, especially those of you who are gifted in the color area. It's really awesome. I'm always blown away with how creative and imaginative people are with how they accent and color furniture with natural wood. It's really something. Well, thanks again for hanging out with us. Remember, if you like this content, please consider subscribing, sharing, and liking, and check out epicwoodworking.com, where we have lots more courses, full-blown courses where you can make furniture. Maybe we'll make one on this little stool. I don't know. Pretty simple, but kind of fun and utilitarian. And we can also check out the Neighborwood, where there's all kinds of good stuff on there as well. Well, on behalf of the camera lady and
Yes, thank
myself,
you.
we look forward to seeing you next time, right back here on Shop Night Live. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. Thank you so much. See you next week.